See, attachment is one thing, an illusion. An illusion of the mind. What do I mean an illusion of the mind? Well, there are some attachments like food that are necessary because it comes with actual consequences. If you don't eat, you will die. So the attachment to eating and the consequences of not eating are grounded in reality, and there's nothing wrong with having that. The problem is that when they turn into an illusion. Now, what's the illusion in attachment? It's that if I don't get this thing, I can't be happy. If I don't get that girl, that guy, I won't be fulfilled. If I don't smoke that crack, I won't feel at peace within myself. And so this illusion causes you to not be able to entertain any other reality. So these are the illusions of the mind. And when you're able to break those illusions, when you're able to penetrate that delusion, which is what? That if I don't get this thing, I won't be happy. That's actually an illusion. What's really happening is that your body is in a desperate state. It wants that itch scratched. But if you actually meditate, you'll notice that when you meditate and you don't scratch an itch, it eventually goes up, but then it passes away. And that'll teach you through meditation and not moving and not scratching the itch, that even an itch that feels permanent arises and passes away. They call this in meditation anicca, which is pretty much impermanence, okay? And so today we're gonna be talking about what tends to happen when you finally detach, because the problem with this is that a lot of people don't see the beauty in detachment because you're so attached to that one thing that you can't imagine what it feels to be happy without it. And that's the illusion. It's an illusion because you can't be happy. Your brain needs to create these mind-made illusions to keep you trapped in that state. The problem is that it works if it's actual food, like I said, but this is not a necessary attachment. Some of the things that we're attached to are not necessary. And so it turns against us and actually turns into a parasite and completely controls and uses us. So with that being said, if you guys want to learn how to detach, purchase my course, Emotional Mastery. It's a course that I created to literally teach you guys how to detach from any situation. It's based on the principles that I've learned in meditation and my 15 years of experience with spirituality. So what tends to happen? Well, the first thing that happens, let's go from 7 to 1. The first thing that happens is that people find you more attractive. And look, I speak of two types of attachments. Detachment. One, the detachment when you're sick and tired of their bullshit, which is the lower grade of a detachment. And also the detachment knows I'm at peace if I don't have it. It's not a detachment because you gave up. It's a detachment because you're not even trying anymore. You're at peace with yourself. And what happens is that you start to actually act more attractive. Everyone has an attractive self within them. And it usually comes out when you don't need anything from them. It's like going into a job interview where one, you need this job, or two, you don't give a fuck about the job, but they just ask you to interview you. They just wanted to interview you. Your whole demeanor changes and you actually come across as a more valuable candidate. The next thing is that you can now enjoy every aspect of life. When we have attachment to things, we only narrow our ranges of desires and pleasure to the finite attachments that we have. Crack, movies, this or that. And what this does is that when you're attached, for example, imagine this is your happiness, right? And imagine this is the source of happiness. This becomes your only source. In life, you have to be able to derive happiness from multiple other sources. And if you notice, the sources are thin, right? These are thin sources. But when you become attached to one thing, it becomes very thick. And so you sort of like hijack your brain where the only thing that makes you happy is this one thing. And so it literally sucks the life, sucks the color in life. And you become one-dimensional. What happens is that, you know, when this happens, when you finally wake up, you realize how much you wasted your time. It's important to be detached from situations, not from I don't give a fuck, I'm tired, I tried, you know, like defeatedness. Detachment from a place of peace, where you become aware of sensation, where you derive happiness from within yourself, not from the outcome. The Bhagavad Gita says you are entitled to the labor, but not the fruits of your labor. The next thing is that you realize how unhappy you actually were, man. This is actually a real thing. Is that when you have a lot of desires, what this means is that in order to have a lot of desire, oh, I'm trying to find a place, right, to draw. In order to have a lot of desire that goes up to here, you gotta have an equal crater in your heart. Naturally, when you, let's zoom in a little bit right here, right? Okay, right there, right? Naturally, in life, this is how it is. It's like you only have the pleasure as long as it equals to the lows. But in order to have this type of pleasure, you have to have an equal amount of low. And so this equal amount of low, in order to have it, you gotta create a deep, deep desire to experience that intense level of happiness. And that's where the problem lies, is that a lot of us tend to give this up for that, that extra bit of high. But the problem is that this eventually gets shorter. But sadly, this gets deeper. And that's the issue with like relying on one thing, that it takes up a lot of your soul. The next one, do you understand what I'm saying? Good. Excellent. All right, let's keep going. So look over here. Next one is how you value, right here, right? There you go. The next thing is that you realize how low value your desires was. There you go. You realize how low value, meaning how it has no end. How it's never really gonna serve you in the future. Deep attachments come with a lack of vision. Your desires for that thing narrows the scope of your vision, where your decision making gets shitty, and you realize once you wake up how horrible your decision making was. Like honestly, when you have deep attachments that your decision making, you're not aware of it at the moment, but they just turn to shit. And then you realize, holy shit, I'm surrounded by things that are not good for me. Next thing is that you start to see through their manipulation. One of the ways to escape a manipulation is to literally remove yourself. Manipulation requires proximity, a lack of external information, and literally the presence of other people who are getting manipulated. It's like a blitzkrieg strategy for the mind. And if somebody's being manipulated, for example, I went to art school. They didn't manipulate me, but I felt something was off in that school because like nobody was trying to make friends with me. I was trying to make friends, but everyone was closed off. And I asked myself, is it me? Is there something wrong with me? Like literally, like I didn't understand what the fuck is wrong with me. Why people didn't want to be friends? Because I'm usually a nice, affable person. And I just wanted to win them over. I wanted to win them over. And I remember staying an extra year unconsciously to win them over. Right? Yeah, I know, it's crazy, right? But then a part of me said, Alexis, I think it's just your ego now. I think it's no big deal that they don't like you, bro. You should go. You should leave. And a part of me just wanted to win them over, you know. And then I said, you know what? It hurts. I'll miss them a lot because there were some people that I liked a lot. But I'm like, I'd rather just leave. And then after I left, like 1 month later, I was like, you know what? That was a good decision. Because I was just reacting to the fact that they didn't like me. And I even though I didn't understand why, but it was my own insecurities keeping me there. You know? So it's kind of like when you leave, you start to see the truth. That's the point, right? When you create distance from something that you've seen every day, you start to see it from a more truthful perspective. That's why when you're studying something and you don't know the answer, sometimes it's better to think of something else and go somewhere else and do something else, because your mind sorts things out. It's like sleep. If you're studying something, you gotta sleep in order to process it fully. And so you walk away from those manipulative situations or take periodic breaks, because what it does is that it clears things up. It's like you just clear things up a little bit better and you're able to see through the manipulation. The problem is that that's why it's so important to create space in situations so that you're able to think more clearly. And the next thing is that you realize how desperate and impatient people really are. That's actually a real thing. Like people all of a sudden will start calling you more, will start wanting to see you more, will start wanting like you realize that in reality they did love you, but you were just too attached. And again, look, it's not that people don't love you if you're attached. What I'm saying is that sometimes people need space so that you can see how much they love you. Sometimes people do love you, but because you have this intense, it's like a mom, right? Like a parent who treats their kids like they're therapists, you know, and that's a type of attachment that's unhealthy. And those kids in their minds think they don't love their parents because they're just so overwhelming. They're like, yo, fuck this, fuck that, yo, he don't leave me alone. I never want to see that motherfucker. A month, 2 months passes, and you haven't seen him, and all of a sudden you're like, you know what, I was wrong, I want to see him. You see what it does is that sometimes people just need some emotional distance. Not that much, but enough. But when you're so attached to people that you can't be sane for 1 second on your own, it puts a certain burden on people that they resent. And this resentment is not felt consciously. All they feel is, yo, get the fuck away from me, weirdo, fucking psycho. Like, get the fuck away from me. I need some distance. And this is what it does. And the bonus one that I'm gonna include is that it reveals to you how unhappy you were. It reveals to you that the thing that you thought was gonna make you happy really is the thing that's keeping you miserable and keeping you on the pursuit of happiness. You gotta understand, happiness is right now. You don't need anything else. If you think you feel you need something else, that's the illusion of the mind. It's an overactive dopaminergic system. What you gotta be able to do is be aware of the moment. For example, right now, let me show you how crazy it is. Right now, don't think about it, just notice what's missing right now. Just for 10 seconds, become aware what's missing right now. Notice it, what's missing? Nothing's missing. This is all you need. Become attached to the now, not to things in the present or the future. Become attached to that weirdo looking tree and look at that tree with love and compassion. Become attached to the air that you breathe, to the food in your mouth, to the things that you see. But become attached to it only if it's in front of you. If it goes away like the river, every second the river is always new. Never hold on to things. Always appreciate what's in front of you. It's like loyalty. Don't be loyal to the people in the past. Only be loyal to who's in front of you right now. That is actual loyalty. People are like, oh, motherfucking Alex is a traitor, a fucking snitch. Yeah, I'm a snitch. Let me tell you something. If we all commit crimes, I'm a snitch on all you motherfuckers, man. Trust me. That's not the type of loyalty I have. I have a channel to run. So yeah, let's summarize this, okay? So let's look at this. So, what do we have here, okay? So, boom, attachment is an illusion, all right? If you feel like you need something to be happy, test it out, observe. For 1 minute, see whether or not it's true. Can you be happy without this for 1 minute? And observe that reality. Penetrate that reality through testing whether or not you really need this. It reveals how impatient and desperate people are, which gives you leverage. You're able to see through their manipulation. You're able to see how low value your desires was, because attachment creates lack of priorities. It's like people who do crack, they'll choose crack over their kids. You'll realize how unhappy you really were. You can now enjoy every aspect of life. Now you don't just need weed to be happy. You can read a book and still be happy. Your apertures of pleasure expand to a more realistic contour. And above all, people find you more attractive, and actually they find you more competent. Like if you come to an interview and you give off that vibe, you have a higher likelihood of being hired than someone who comes across looking desperate. And if you guys want to learn how to do this, man, check out my course, Emotional Mastery, on the description down below. Bye-bye.